can shut them down. So I've always had like that ability to go from like style to style, like big dude and small dude, just because when I grew up wrestling, my best friend who was like an elite wrestler was a little dude, and
Yeah.
he's the guy that would like try to make me better and teach me his techniques and stuff. So I would learn techniques from little guys. Like
Yeah.
all my best friends, like it was like a group of like 4 or 5 of us. I was the worst one out of all of us, but they were all little guys. I think the biggest one was 145 pounder, and all the way down to like 112. So
Shit.
it was all little guys, and they always were the ones teaching me like their moves. So I developed like the ability to move like a little guy,
That's fucking awesome,
and
dude.
I feel like that's always helped me out in jujitsu.
Dude, I think that's great. We're gonna keep that in, but
Cool,
I'm just gonna we're gonna keep everything you just said in.
awesome.
But I'm gonna introduce you, JC. How
Yep,
you doing, bro? Brown Butter, 10th Planet, San Diego,
yep.
California. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited.
No, bro. Thank you for coming, man. We're really interested because you're competing on Saturday, which just comes out in like a couple weeks, but you're competing this Saturday. So thank you for taking time out to come have a conversation with us.
Yeah, no, I had been, your podcast caught my eye a couple of weeks ago, and I started because a lot of familiar faces have been on it, and
Right.
a lot of guys that I came up with in jujitsu, and so I've been watching it, and I loved it. And when Tommy's episode dropped, I hit him up immediately, and I was like, hey, let him know I'm gonna be there
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
weekend of the tournament. And if he's down with it, I'm definitely I would
With some
definitely
funny
be willing to
jokes
go.
in the
Yeah, yeah.
messages, but that was good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, me and Tommy's messages are rated R.
Yeah, it was funny. It was funny.
Yeah.
So, we were just talking about it right now, but like, kind of give me that background of how you started grappling because it seems like you started wrestling first, and you
Yes.
started down here in Miami.
Yeah, I wrestled for Columbus High School,
Oh
freshman
shit!
to senior year.
How's that room?
It was elite.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I was probably the worst one out of the guys that were
Right.
there. But the thing is that I was part of an elite team.
Mm,
So like if you ask people around the Miami Jiu-Jitsu community that know me, like they'll probably tell you I'm this great wrestler. I'm really not. It's all perspective and relatively speaking, because the guys that I wrestled with, those guys are elite,
yeah.
like my best friend Maddie, Laz, Judo, who
Judo.
my best friend, we call him Judo, his name was Nick.
Yeah.
He passed away,
Yeah.
rest in peace. But
Oh, so we swim around the same circles. Like,
I,
judo knows, like, well, used to know.
yeah, we must have had,
I'm from
because
St. Brendan.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was my best friend growing up, and I don't
I'm
want to
sorry
get
to hear
too
that,
into
dude.
that
No, no,
story,
of course.
but yeah, he passed away. But those are all my best friends, and you're talking, all these guys placed top four in the state, some of them multiple times, and I made it to state. I didn't place, but just being around those guys and like just like riding their coattails, like
Right.
I was able to uh become a decent wrestler, but not, I wouldn't say elite in compared to like elite wrestlers, but elite in some open mats,
Right.
yeah.
Like elite in terms of what you see in wrestling when it comes to in jiu-jitsu world.
Yeah, like in jujitsu, my wrestling helped me out a lot. Like
I bet.
as a white belt, I started jujitsu in 2017. And as a white belt, I was like smashing a lot of people, like especially higher belts. Like I remember doing competitions, um, like ADCC opens, like back in the day before, like I don't know if you remember, but like the ADCC opens like were around back in the day, and then they stopped doing them
Mhm.
for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Before they stopped doing them, I did one as a white belt. I think I had been training for like 3 months, and I signed up intermediate. So in that
I think you
tournament,
had to, right?
it's like it doesn't go by belts; it goes by experience level, and it's 3 experience levels. It's either novice, intermediate, or advanced.
Right.
And uh, their textbook definition is novice would be white and blue, intermediate would be blue and purple, and then advanced would be brown and black. As a like 3 month white belt, I went intermediate, and just with my wrestling, I was able to win that tournament with no jujitsu.
What'd you
Just
do? What'd you do? Just like
I
double leg?
basically, they told me what the rules were. They were like, hey, the first 3 minutes, there's not going to be any points.
Yeah.
Second 3 minutes, there's points. So I'm
Right.
like, okay, cool. I went against a purple belt, good friend of mine actually from Daniel Perez's gym.
Mm.
he dude's really good, but his wrestling wasn't on my level at the time, and I took advantage of the rule set, and I just told my coach, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna stall him out on my feet. He's not gonna take me down.
Which
I'm
makes
not gonna
sense.
engage his guard or anything.
Right.
And then as soon as the points start, just give me the sign, and I'm just gonna take him down and then stall the whole match. And that's exactly what I did. I think I won 2-0. So I didn't even pass his guard. I almost didn't know any jujitsu. It was just wrestling.
That's pretty smart though. I
Yeah.
mean, you played by the rules. You did what you did. You took him down, and then were you kind of like waiting to start passing?
Honestly, I that this match was a long time ago,
Right,
but
right, right, right. Yeah.
I don't really remember what I was thinking at the time. But I remember my strategy, and my strategy was I'm gonna stall until I can get two for the takedown, and then I'm gonna stall until I win. And I think that's what I did. When I took him down, I was in his guard, and I just didn't get swept, and I didn't really try to pass his guard either. I probably got a couple stalling calls, but at that point, like I was up by two, so I
Yeah.
had nothing to lose.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
So how did you jump into jujitsu? Like you wrestled, and how did you get to that point that you were competing at ADCC and all
So,
that?
like I said, I wrestled for Columbus High School, right by your old stomping grounds, from freshman year to senior year. Then,
So when you started wrestling Columbus, did you wrestle before that?
no, I wish I did. I
Oh,
think I would
cool.
have been a lot better if I did. Um,
But you just decided you always liked wrestling. You said, "I'm going to do this." Like, why did
so,
you choose football or another sport over there?
so
Like football sport.
I tried doing football. So unbeknownst to me, in order to join the freshman football team at Columbus, and come to find out, most high schools, the tryout is actually the summer before freshman year starts. So
Mm,
all the guys that are on the freshman team, specifically at Columbus, they all are there during the summer, doing tryouts and
right, right.
practices to make it on that team. I did not know that. So I showed up as a freshman, and my dad was like, "Hey, like, you're in a high school that's really good at sports. Pick a sport." My middle school didn't have any sports.
Oh, okay.
In middle school, actually, I did boxing. Like,
Oh, that's
you
pretty cool.
remember where the Kendall Ice Arena
Yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
On the second floor of that, there used to be a boxing gym called Knockout Boxing Club.
Yeah.
I did, like, all throughout middle school. I boxed there.
Oh shit.
I never competed or anything. I just kind of like, it was something my dad just put me in, just to, like, to keep me busy and learn self defense.
Right.
But that's what I did. And so, fast forward to high school, I talked to the freshman football coach, and I was like, hey, I'm a freshman, I want to join the football team. And he was like, well, the tryouts were in the summer, so you have to wait till sophomore year to get on the team.
Right.
And I wasn't willing to just sit out a whole year without playing any
No,
sports.
no, fuck that. Yeah.
Then my second choice was cross country, because my dad ran cross country in high school.
Oh, okay.
Me and my dad have two totally different builds. Like, my dad's much shorter than me, and when he was younger, he was a really really good runner, and like, he used to run marathons and stuff. And so I always had that in my head. So I was like, oh, let me just go. They had like a briefing to join the cross country team. So I was sitting in the briefing, and my dad was calling me because he was outside to pick me up, and he's like, "Hey, where you at?" And I pick up the phone. I'm like, "Hey, let me call you right back. I'm at the briefing for the cross country team."
Right.
And my dad was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, you haven't ran a mile in 3 years. Get the heck out of there. You're not gonna be on the cross country team." So a couple of days after that, I had seen some wrestlers, like, working out, and they were cutting weight. And what
Mm,
caught my eye was they were wearing the trash bags.
right.
And that was familiar to me because of my days in the boxing gym. I had seen a lot of guys wearing those trash bags. And even myself, I had some of those trash bags to, like, make myself sweat, even though I never cut weight at that time or anything
Yeah,
like
I get what
that.
you're saying.
But that caught my eye. I was like, oh, it was something I could relate to. I was like, oh, I did that. So I went, and I tried out a wrestling class. I got absolutely smoked by a nobody. And but I fell in love with it, and I was terrible for many years. Freshman and sophomore year, I was really really bad. We got made fun of a lot, and
Yeah, all boys school. What do you expect?
at all boys
Yeah,
school, elite dudes, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But you just don't quit. You just keep coming back, and you start picking up skills. Then I started going to wrestling camps during the summers.
Oh, cool.
My dad would send me with a couple of my buddies to, like, universities. I went to Boston College one year, and University of Minnesota another year with
Oh
J Rob,
shit.
like some really elite stuff. And junior year, I ended up made it on. I finally made it on the varsity team as 189 pounder. Um, I did poorly. I didn't go to states or anything that year, and then senior year, I started the year injured. I tore my meniscus and an MCL. So I missed like the first 6 weeks of the season, but then I picked back up and I ended up qualifying for states. I think I won districts that year. Um,
That's good.
my weight class really wasn't that good, but yeah, I did the best with what I
Right,
had. You know, a
right,
lot of my teammates had been wrestling much longer than I had,
right.
and they were really elite dudes. Like my best friend Matty, he was like one of the best kids in the nation when he was like a little kid. Like
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
these are the guys that I'm hanging around with,
yeah.
and these are the guys that are like making fun of me. So there's not much you can say, you know?
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I graduated high school. Ended up going to the military and stopped grappling. The only grappling I did was in on the military bases. They have like these like dojos, like mat
Yeah, yeah,
rooms,
yeah.
where you can practice like self defense. And there, when I was stationed in Japan,
Oh, that's dope.
I walked into I had two experiences with jujitsu before I started jujitsu. The first one was when I was in in um in my, like, what do they call, MOS school, which is like your job training
Okay.
for the military. I Some kid, we were just wrestling, like we were wrestling. I think this kid was a blue belt jujitsu, and I was much bigger than him, but he was like a super scrappy dude,
Uh,
and we went at it for like 13 minutes straight.
Shit.
And he was trying to choke me the whole time, and I was just like wrestling him and putting pressure and stuff. And then eventually, I think I like got tired and just let him choke me. But like that was my first experience with jujitsu. So
First experience, 13-minute death match.
yeah, and to be honest with you, I lacked respect for the art because to me, in my mind, I was like, well, I've never done jujitsu, and I just smoked this kid for 13 minutes, and I just
Right,
got tired, and that's the only reason he beat me.
right, right, right.
Um, and then a couple years after that, I was stationed in Japan, and it was the same thing. I walked into one of those mat rooms, and they were having like actually like a little jujitsu club, like
Oh,
with
cool.
gis and everything.
Oh shit.
And the guy leading it was a purple belt, which I was insignificant at the time. I didn't know what that meant or anything. And it was kind of like the same scenario. Like I got a chance to roll with him, and I gave him a super hard time for a long, long time, like 10, 12, 13 minutes again. And then eventually he choked me
Yeah.
because I got tired. So based on those two initial experiences, I didn't think jujitsu was like legit.
Now, what got you to like what got you to like legitimize it? I guess.
My friend Judo
Okay.
had started doing it, and he was like, "You need to do this. This is like it's super fun, and you'll be good at it."
Oh, okay.
Um, and I was kind of preemptive at first, and then when my best friend passed away,
Sorry to hear that.
me and the other guys from that group of friends, we decided we were gonna start doing it. And once I started, I got hooked, and I couldn't stop.
And you said you started like when we were talking before the podcast. You said you started here in Miami. You started.
Yeah,
Where did you start at?
yeah. The first school I started was it used to be called Goblin Skills
Oh yeah, that's
with
it's
Laz.
Miami Jiu Jitsu now. I
It's
think.
now Miami Jiu Jitsu team.
Okay.
I got my blue belt there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was a good time. It was an academy that suited my needs at the time. You know,
Yeah.
I was a white belt. I didn't know anything, and
Right.
again, if do you know Laz?
I know him, but I don't know him like that. Like I've met him.
But you know what he looks like?
Yeah, yeah,
He's like a small dude.
yeah. He's super
So
cool.
that's who was teaching me everything as a white belt. So a lot of
Oh,
my game is Laz from white belt was Laz's game.
yeah. Like your fundamental game is very
Yeah,
Laz like.
and he's a super small dude, so he wasn't teaching me like smash pass and pressure
Right.
pass. He was teaching me betting bolos and
Ah, sick.
inverted stuff and all this stuff that you don't really see big dudes doing.
Right.
And it was kind of like a continuation of like how it was in wrestling, where I was hanging around these elite dudes that were like a lot smaller than me in wrestling, and trying to, whether it was them teaching me their moves or me just watching them and wanting to be like them and emulate their moves.
Right.
I think it was more of that than anything else. It was like me watching my best friends who were incredible at wrestling move the way they did, and I wanted to move like that.
Right.
Because
Right.
have you
Right.
ever
Right.
watched a high school heavyweight or big dude wrestling match?
I have. Yeah. Yeah.
It is super boring.
It's kind of like it's very slow. It's very like
Yeah, it's very
intense.
slow. It's not very technical.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of invisible technique in there.
Right.
Like Hicks and Gracie's invisible jujitsu, but
Yeah.
but to the naked eye, like it looks like like a bunch of
Right. So like the spectator doesn't
whales
really
rolling.
know.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
So I wanted to be like the cool kids, and I wanted to emulate them. And
You want to hit those barambolos and you want to hit all the cool
yeah,
shit.
yeah, exactly. So and then as soon
Which
as
back in the day when you were a blue belt, the barambolos was hot.
yeah, dude, when I was a white belt and a blue belt and even purple belt, betting bowler was like yeah, legit. And a lot of the guys that I looked up to were like one of my first like serious training partners was Sebastian Serpa,
Oh shit.
and he I thought I knew how to bolo, and then I rolled him. So
Then you met Sebastian.
yeah, another little guy. You see the trend. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I started with Laz. I didn't have a fallout with Laz, but
Okay.
I left his academy because of something that happened.
Right.
And then after I left his academy, something happened, which I can get into if you want, where it was like a misunderstanding, and he thought that I was doing something I wasn't,
Yeah.
and yeah, we haven't talked since,
You don't have
but
to get into it.
yeah,
It's not
yeah, I don't mind. Actually, it probably would be a good idea to talk about it so that maybe he hears it. Yeah.
important. Okay. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, yeah, it's old drama, but
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, I was part of the Miami Jiu Jitsu team, and I was like really committed. I would compete as a white belt. I competed more than any other belt.
Yeah.
I won a bunch of IBJJF opens. Traveled the country, went to Denver Open, Atlanta Open, Orlando, all over. And me and Laz were super close. He was a great coach.
Yeah.
Anyways, there was a dude. Honestly, I don't even remember his name.
Happens a lot.
He was a white belt, and he was like he would get under my nerves a lot, right? And there was a bunch of like instances where like I was like really annoyed with this kid. And but just to give you an example, so I was a blue belt and he was a white belt. He got promoted to blue belt, and I was under the impression that like I should be getting my purple belt by
Right.
now,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Okay.
which I was totally wrong, and we'll get into that later. But when this kid got his blue belt, he came up to me as soon as he got his blue belt and was like, basically was like, haha, I got promoted faster than you. I caught up. And that like
What?
I don't know why that hurt me so much. And I was like, I cannot be in the same academy wearing the same belt as this guy. So I left that day. I was like, I took myself out of the team chat and I was like, I'm out of there. But
Okay.
it was nothing to do with Laz.
Yeah.
Um then there was a guy who was a higher belt at that academy. Um that basically what happened was he hit me up that weekend after I left the chat and was like, "Hey, where are you going?"
Yeah.
And he was texting me this on a Sunday,
Right.
and I was like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe Arise, maybe Carlson Gracie. I really don't know."
Right.
Um, but I thought he was asking me like, which academy am I going to? Like,
Right.
because I left the team.
Yeah.
But apparently he didn't know I left the team. What he was asking me was, where was I going to train on Sunday for open mat? So I was like, do you? He was like, well, let me know where you go and I'll go with you. So I thought he was like gonna leave the academy with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, are you serious? I was like, I don't know, like maybe Arise, because at the back then, like Arise Sunday open mats was like really big, really popular.
Yeah.
So that's what he thought I was talking about, but I thought he was talking about like leaving the academy. Then when we kind of like figured out the misunderstanding, that higher belt went back to Laz and
Oh.
told him that I was trying to poach students, that I was trying to
Oh.
get students to leave the
Right.
academy with me, which was absolutely not the case.
Okay.
And then that kind of led into some drama, some comments on Instagram, and we haven't talked since. But I have seen, I ran into him at a Green Day concert one time, and
Wow. Green
we
Day concert.
yeah, randomly
Yeah.
at the concession stand, and immediately we didn't even like hesitate. We like shook
That's good.
hands and hugged and stuff. I have nothing but love for him, and yeah, that was my first academy. So a lot of this, I was just talking to my friend, like some of the stuff that I learned back then, I still use to this day in
Yeah,
my
man.
game. So
That's like,
yeah,
especially if you learn it so early on in your career, like the fundamentals of your game is built. Like I believe in that, like white belt, blue belt, early purple is when you really get the fundamentals of your game. So if you're in that category for that long, a lot of your game is going to be based off that. It's not going to be that that's going to be your game, but there's a lot of basis there.
yeah, especially in the gi. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, so you were in the gi for a while, but now you moved to California and
yeah.
you're training at 10th Planet San Diego with a bunch of monsters. You like to go to these rooms that are filled with monsters.
So um, You were asking me before, like, if I come back to Miami,
Yeah.
what school would I go to?
Right.
And I told you like my mentality has changed. What I meant by that was when I started jujitsu, I started with Miami Jiu-Jitsu team, which was a small
Right.
local academy.
Right.
Um, and then I was when I left there, I went to Arise for like 6 months. I wasn't there with Arise for a very long time because I ended up moving to Boca Raton, and I ended up joining Carlson Gracie Boca Raton.
Okay.
All three of those schools were small local academies.
Right.
And when I, especially at white belt, when I was competing for a small local academy, I took pride in going against the big schools and beating them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so when I was a white belt and I was in the Miami Abijinjev Open finals against a fight sports guy, I took great gratification in knowing that I was beating the guy that Cyborg was coaching.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, and I thought so too, right?
Like that
But
mentality is pretty cool.
yeah,
Like
and
you like the underdog feel.
yeah, and I got that from wrestling because we wrestled against some pretty big schools, and it was kind of like we were a small private school,
Right.
and we wrestled against really good teams like South Dade and Brandon High School and
Brandon, that's the
Osceola.
second time I've never wrestled in high school, obviously, because I wouldn't say Brandon, but Brandon's the second time I hear that name.
So Brandon was the most elite high school wrestling team in the state when I
That's
was in
what I
high
heard.
school. They were so good. They had a ESPN documentary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like incredible, and it's funny because they were not in our division any of the years that we were in high school, with the exception of our senior year.
That's what I
Our senior
heard.
year, they came into our division. All their super good guys like gave us a bunch of trouble, and then they left. So like, I like, for example, it probably wouldn't have made much of a difference for me, but like my friend Maddie, like would have been a state champion otherwise.
Oh, that's
Like he beat everybody in the state except the Brandon kid,
yeah.
and he kind of got screwed there. But
All right, so let's go back to like what we were talking about.
yeah,
The
so
you were in the small schools. You went to Boca.
yeah,
Carlson
so I
Gracie.
was in the small schools, and I kind of took pride in being in a small school, and I would just like I would get my technique from Laz when I was with him, or Diesel, and then eventually Manny. Manny became the most special professor for me. Manny from Carlson Gracie Boca Raton, Manny
Okay.
Suarez. He's a Nogi world champion.
Yeah.
Has won I don't know how many titles in the Masters divisions. He's 50 years old, but he feels like he's 30. Like he's incredible. He became really special to me because he recognized that I was kind of like lost in jiu-jitsu. Like I had been switching schools and all this stuff. I was a blue belt for quite a long time, and I was a white belt for I was a white belt for almost 2 years, and I was a blue belt for like almost 2 years. And when I joined Carlson Gracie Boca Raton, I had already been like going to their gym unofficially for a little while.
Yeah.
And not even like a month after I like officially joined his gym, he promoted me to purple belt.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that opened my eyes a lot to like how much like rank didn't matter. Like I said, I left. One of the reasons why I was kind of annoyed with that kid at Lasses is because I thought I should have been a purple belt.
Right.
I really shouldn't have. Like when I got my purple belt, I was actually kind of timid about it. I was like, oh, like be careful what you wish for type thing, because I was decent blue belt, and then I all of a sudden I got a purple belt, and now I'm kind of like a scrub purple belt.
I get that, dude. That's like, I think it's a normal feeling when you get that purple belt. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, this is serious now.
Yeah, it's serious. It's the first advanced belt, and so fast forward, I stayed with Manny for quite a long time, and then I ended up going to San Diego.
Okay.
I moved to San Diego in the beginning of 2022,
Okay.
and all the way until I moved to San Diego. So all of white belt, blue belt, and like half of my time at purple belt, I focus 95% of the time in gi.
That's a lot of time.
But I always had a knack for nogi, and I always wanted to dive into nogi because of my wrestling background.
Right.
And to be honest, I thought in the back of my head that I was good at nogi, because the only nogi experience I had was against these guys at gi academies that didn't know how to weren't good at nogi, and I would go there with just like some basic wrestling and mop the floor with a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you
I had
that technique. You had that jiu-jitsu technique as well that you built up. I mean, a lot of those skills, at least in my opinion, in my experience, when you're doing a lot of gi, it's hard to transfer over to no gi. Like
super hard.
It was difficult.
Especially in the gi. My game was De La Hiva, Berimbolo, back takes with attacking the back with collar grips and stuff like that, like bow and arrow and cross collar chokes. and even like my passing like was very reliant on, and
Depends.
I've always been known to be like a really good passer. Like to this day, like I'm that's my game. Is I'm a passer above
Okay.
anything else. And but in the gi, I always use grips to pass.
Right.
You know, I had
Right.
like a home how knee cut where I would use the grips to get past the knee shield, and then go into a cross collar grip from there. Um, and then so when I moved to San Diego, I was like, I want to join. I want to join a big school for once, and then B, I want to go to a school that it's like big in nogi. Um,
Mm,
and San Diego has no shortage of that. Like
yeah.
Atos is just as big in gi as they are in nogi. Alliance headquarters over there, same thing. Legion, Jiu Jitsu. You know,
Yeah.
all these schools are great at both.
I didn't even know Legions was in San Diego. That's crazy.
Yeah, I go to their open mats sometimes. It's a really good school. Um, so anyways, I started doing the campaign trail, like visiting all the academies when I
Oh,
first
that's cool.
got
So
there.
you visited them first. That's smart.
Yeah, I wanted to try out like at least one class in each one to like feel the vibe and like see where I fit best. And I when I got to 10th Planet, they basically locked me in a deal that I couldn't refuse, and it was unbelievable because so the day I went to visit 10th Planet was on Monday.
Yeah.
On Mondays in 10th Planet, San Diego is like the craziest training session like you'll ever be a part of. Like
Why?
so Mondays at 10th Planet San Diego go like this. It's live situationals the entire time. There's no drilling and there's no like regular
Like
rounds.
techniques. Oh, it's no regular round, no technique.
No.
It's all straight
It's
situations.
all situationals. We do regular rounds at the end, optional if you want to stay
Kind of
past
like an
the
open
regular
mat.
class time.
Yeah.
But the class on Monday is all situationals. Is 1 minute situation drills. I go, you go, and you can only pick three positions. So let's say you and me
Oh,
are partnered
cool.
up. Boogie, my professor over there, limits you to three positions.
Which is
So
an
yeah,
amazing athlete and professor.
and I'll talk a little bit about him in just a minute. But basically, if you and me were to go, I could, and let's say I'm on offense first for the first minute, I could be like, I can start in one of three positions. First position is armbar. I'll start fully locked in on armbar,
Uh,
and you establish your defense. And then when we say go, it's a minute of me trying to submit you with an armbar and you trying to escape the armbar. If I submit you or you escape, it's a restart. We go back to the same position.
oh,
So
that's
for a
pretty
whole
cool.
minute, you're working on armbar offense and armbar defense. Um, and then the second position is back with hooks and a seatbelt. And then the whole time I'm trying to rear naked choke you or submit you from the back, and then you're trying to escape the back.
Okay.
If you succeed or I succeed, we restart. And then the third position is butterfly guard. So the offense guy, my goal is to pass, and your goal is to sweep. No submissions in that one.
The guys double underhooks.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So so that's so that was my first experience at 10th Planet San
That's
Diego
really
was
dope.
on Monday. And it was like, so I was used to these academies that a packed house was 15, 20 dudes was like incredible.
Yeah.
On Monday at 10th Planet San Diego was 70 dudes, 10 black belts, 15 brown belts. Insane. ADCC veterans,
That's really cool.
like all these crazy people like that I knew. Like in my mind, they were like celebrities,
Right.
like
Right. Right.
Cal
Right. No,
Chambers
I
and
get that.
Keith Krikorian, Boogie. My boy Alex Grandy, who you might not know him, but you will soon. He's competing at ADCC Worlds this year. All these incredible athletes, and so that was my first experience, and I was blown away. They gave me a great deal, and I was like, "Sign me up!" And I stayed with them the whole time, and I
That's
just dropped
awesome.
the gi.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that at least if you want to get to the elite level, you gotta pick one, and that's just my opinion. I mean, there's people that have that's games that are transferable, but I think that like if you want to be really good at no gi, you gotta kind of focus on no gi. Doesn't mean you can't train gi, but if that's the sport that you're going after, I think you gotta do it.
I totally agree with you, especially if you have a full time job.
Yeah,
Like if you're a
100%.
professional jujitsu athlete, and all you do is sleep, breathe, and do jujitsu, then you have the time to be good at both, like
That makes
Mika
sense.
Galvao or the Rotulo
Yeah,
twins.
that makes sense.
But if you're like a regular working man, but you also want to be elite at the sport, then the best route to go about that is to choose one and focus all your time in one.
Yeah,
Because if you're trying to win a Nogi World Championship, and you're only training no-gi Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then
Mm-hmm.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday you're doing gi, and then you go against me and I'm doing nothing but no-gi all year round. Think about the difference in training. Specifically for that for
Yeah, and
no-gi, like
small details that you're developing too.
yeah,
You're
it's
tapping
just
into.
a whole new thing. Like, um, yeah, I mean, especially for me, like when I came from here to San Diego and I started rolling with those guys, I thought I knew Nogi. I did not. Like all my passes weren't working. I had
Right.
no submissions. Absolutely no submissions. I could wrestle a little bit and I could scramble
Yeah.
really good because I move well for like a bigger dude. But other than that, like my passing, I had to reinvent my passing. I had to reinvent my submission attacks. I
It's
had
kind
to
of like
reinvent
starting over.
my guard.
Yeah.
Like, I was like a De La Hiva player before, and
Right.
that's like really relying on
Yeah.
grips. You can play a little bit of De La Hiva and Nogi, but it's not as effective.
You find yourself going to De La Rivas and like you're just
Yeah,
breaking out of them.
yeah. So it was almost like a reset for me. Not only like a new environment, a new professor, a new school, a new state, but also like a chance to like reinvent a whole new style of jujitsu for myself.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it took me a while, and I feel like I'm now starting to like uh kind of like match my no gi game to where my gi game was before I
Yeah.
dropped the gi.
So how is that? How did you when you noticed that you had to do this transfer into Nogi and that you had to restart? Like what did you decide to focus on first? What were you like, okay, I have to do this Nogi and I gotta make some adjustments. I gotta kind of make this reset. What are the things I need to focus on first?
The first thing I focused on was trying to get my best game back to be my
Okay.
best game. So I was a really good passer in the gi, and then I got to 10th
That makes
planet
sense.
and I couldn't pass anybody's guard because it was so much different. And I
Oh,
was
that's gotta
like,
be a tough guard to pass to 10th planet guards.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's some really good guard players there. And then my style of passing just wasn't working in that style of jiu-jitsu, and I was like, okay, before I move on to anything else, I need to get my A game back. I was like, I'm a really good passer, so I'm going to make sure that I become a really good passer in this room as well.
Okay.
And I just focused on that, and like Monday classes that I was talking about, every single round I was picking passing.
Oh, cool.
So I wasn't taking the back. Every guy I went, they can take my back and they can get my arm if they want to. But when it was my turn to go on offense, I was passing.
That's pretty cool. That structure that you get to pick the positions because it kind of gives you that
You get to pick what you
you
want to
get
work
to
on.
yeah, right. You
Yeah,
get to do that. That's really good. And it's pretty good that you have the wherewithal to be like, okay, I know I'm good at passing at the gi. There's gonna be things that I'm gonna be able to transfer over. And then let me just start with what I'm good at and start from the basics and just drill that. How long did it take until you felt comfortable with it?
it took me about like 3-ish months to start like passing guards again.
Okay.
Um,
Because you were focused on it daily.
yeah, I focus on. I go to jiu-jitsu every day. I train every day. I at the competition class, which is like the highest level at 10th Planet San Diego, um, and I was a really good passer. I needed to tweak my
Right.
passing
Right.
to no gi.
Right.
Um, so like the knee cut that I was really good at in the gi, I still do it in no gi, but I had to like figure out how to do
The
it
grips and all that shit.
differently. Yeah,
Yeah.
how to set it up differently, how to execute it differently, how to not rely on grips, stuff like that.
Right.
How to place my elbow in a way where they can't like throw their rubber guard over,
Right. Right.
Um, and then I had to learn a couple of new guards that I wasn't used to in the gi, like rubber guard, for example.
Right.
Um,
How was that like?
it's miserable. So the first time I ever rolled with Boogie was like my first week there, and I'm bigger than Boogie. Boogie's not small. Boogie's like 200 pounds, a little bit taller than me. Like he's a big dude, but super flexible. He's like strong, but not super strong to where like I can't move him. So
Right.
I was confident that I could like manhandle him a little bit,
Yeah.
just because I'm bigger than him.
Right.
That was not the case. I literally got subbed like 7 times in like a 5 minute roll,
Yeah.
all with the exact same setup. It was like rubber guard, to that shoulder crunch that he does, to the arm bar, to the gogo plata, rinse and repeat like 7 times in one roll.
So he was hunting for it.
Oh yeah, I mean he knew. I mean he was. Yeah, I was his prey for quite a while, and
Saying you're in a good spot.
yeah, and then he started teaching me how to like get better at passing that type of guard, and now I'm able to like give him a better fight, give him better work, and I do better now. But but yeah, so there was a couple new guards that I had to work on, and but that was my first goal was like get my guard passing back because I could still wrestle. No, actually, my wrestling was just as good. There was some wrestlers in the room that were better than me, and I couldn't wrestle against them. But generally speaking, like my wrestling didn't go anywhere, and then my passing, I picked it up after 3 or 4 months of like figuring out how to make my passes work. I started passing a lot of people's guards, and then my next step was find like submissions again because all of my submissions in the gi were relying on grips.
Right.
Like I was, choking people with the gi. I
Collar.
was arm barring with the gi.
Yeah, with the relying of the grip of that of the gi, it's a huge difference trying to armbar somebody with a gi on.
Yeah,
It's huge.
yeah, and you can control somebody with the gi on way
Yeah,
much. Like you can slow down, control them in order for you to establish position to get a submission. In no gi, you're scrambling, you're sweaty, you're
it's
slipping
quicker.
out of things. Yeah, it's quicker. So you got to kind of pick and choose, what submissions you go after. And so that was my second goal was like, all right, now that I have my wrestling and my passing, I want to figure out like what my submission game is going to be in no gi.
That makes
Want to
sense.
have at least a couple of threats,
Right.
you know because if you have no submission threat and you go against somebody from 10th planet, like it doesn't matter that you pass their guard and you smash them,
That
they're
makes
just
sense.
gonna throw their leg over and submit you.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
so
Yeah, you
I
gotta give a
wanted to
sense of
have,
danger.
yeah, I wanted to be able to be dangerous, to be threatening to those guys so that they be wary about what they were doing with those crazy guards. um then my next goal was figure out my guard again
Mm.
because like I
Oh, that's a
said,
good point.
in this room I was not the best wrestler. There's a couple guys, Alex Grande being one of them, D1 college wrestler, like an incredible athlete. He makes me look like somebody who's never wrestled. When I wrestle against Alex Grande, I look like I've never wrestled in my life. Like that's how good he is.
I mean, D1. Do you know where he went to school?
Cal Poly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he took fourth in the state in California, which is
Oof.
extremely hard because in
Yeah.
California in high school they only have one division.
Yeah.
So if whoever the state champion of California is, there's only one state champion in each weight class.
That's
In
crazy.
Florida, there's three state champions in each weight class
Okay.
because there's three divisions.
Yeah.
So it's more diluted.
Is that like Jersey? Isn't Jersey like that too?
There's a couple states like that. California is one of them.
Oh, that's crazy.
So he
And
took
California's
fourth.
huge.
Yeah, so he took fourth in California at 171. So he was big, but he was athletic. And then he went to Cal Poly. I think he wrestled there for a year. And he's an absolute beast. He's took third at ADCC trials 2 years. He took second this past year at East Coast trials, and he just got invited to compete at minus 99 kilos at ADCC World Championships
That's,
against Cyborg and all the big dudes.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. That's gonna be
um,
dope.
so that's the guy that I wrestle with every day, and it's not fun. It's miserable. It's absolutely horrible, and he makes me feel like I don't know anything. Like I have a rule with him. If I have a competition coming up, I'll train with him until we reach like 2 weeks out from my competition.
Okay.
Then I won't train with him because if I train with him right before a competition, my confidence will be
I get
in
that.
the ground. Like this guy kicks my ass, like wipes him out.
I get that, dude.
So like this past week, I was like, I'm not rolling with you. I need to get my confidence high. I'm rolling with
No,
the
that
lower
makes
belts.
sense to me.
Yeah. So that's my rule with him, and so yeah, so I went from learning how to pass again to picking, getting better at submissions and nogi, then picking the guards that work for me, getting good at guards. I play like an open guard.
So how did you know, like, as you say you play an open guard, but how did you know, was it through the training that you were like, okay, I'm gonna work on this type of guard, I'm gonna work on this type of guard? Were you deciding as you were training, or did you kind of have it in mind already, like, I'm gonna work on this is what I'm gonna get good
So
at?
the approach I took there was like, I was like, okay, what was I good at in the gi?
Okay.
And then like, let's stick with some familiar
makes
guards,
sense.
like,
Okay.
so I play half guard. I play that in the gi as well.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of like, how do I do it without grips? And then the only one that I really haven't been able to do, even though sometimes I do it, is De La Hiva.
Okay.
The thing about De La Hiva is that if you are like, if you've never done gi, if you've only trained no gi,
Yeah.
you have no idea what the hell De La Hiva is.
That's
You don't
true.
know what lasso is. You don't know what spider is because they don't do that. So
That's true.
even though De La Hiva is not super effective in nogi, when you go against somebody who's only ever done nogi and you throw a De La Hiva hook on them, they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And I have some success with it every once in a while, but I play more like sit up guard, shin to shin, and half guard, deep half in nogi.
So training over there, I'm assuming that you've competed over there in San Diego. a bunch. I know that you did trials as well.
Yeah, I did trials and I did purple belt worlds. Um,
I saw that. Yeah.
yeah, I was supposed to do worlds the year before, but I tore my pec.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I tore my pec November of 2022, and I couldn't roll for like 6 months. So
Shit.
I came back 2023 in June, and then I prepped for worlds at purple belt that next November 2023. And I lost my first match 0-0. The dude that beat me ended up in the podium. Like he was pretty good.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
then
was that your first competition at purple?
that was
Oh,
because
so Worlds was your first competition at purple
yeah.
because you got
So
injured.
yeah, well, not only that, but at purple belt, I competed a lot at white and blue.
Hmm.
At blue, I did Pan Americans, I did super fights, I did a couple opens. But when I got my purple, I was at the police academy in Broward College.
Oh, okay.
When Manny promoted me from Carlson Gracie, I was at the police academy, so I was like training very little, because I couldn't get hurt or I would lose that job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I ended up leaving that job and going to another job, and then that transition kind of like didn't let me compete like I wanted to.
Right.
And then once I got settled in San Diego, I was training to go to Worlds 2022, and I tore my pec.
Yeah, it sucks.
And then when I came back from tearing my pec, I picked back up where I left off, and I competed at Worlds. Lost by referee's decision, and then Boogie promoted me to brown belt.
Shit.
So then my first competition as a brown belt was
So your
ADCC
so your
trials,
first competition at purple
was Worlds,
was Worlds, and you got your brown belt right after.
and then my first competition at brown belt was ADCC trials. Yeah,
So you went from Worlds to ADCC. How was that like? How was that environment like trials? It's got to be wild. Like as a competitor.
it's awesome. Like
Yeah.
I learned so much by going there. I learned so many things. So for starters, like seeing like that stage, that level of jujitsu opens your eyes to the possibilities. Like
Mm.
it really lets you know like where you're at, who are the guys that are dominating, what they're doing, and how you compare to them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you're seeing it at the world highest level of grappling
Yeah,
in front of you.
because remember, like I did purple belt worlds, but that's just purple belts against purple belts.
Right.
At ADCC, I'm going against black belts.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so it's like that's really the true test of like where you fall in the mix. You know, and I really enjoyed the rule set. I won my first match was actually I got a bye my first round.
Yeah, but
Then
then you won one by submission by rear naked, right?
then I went against a purple belt, and I beat him in overtime. I ended up taking him down, choking him,
There
and
was a
then
couple good. I saw you going in for a couple like in judo they call it haraigoshi. I guess they're hip tosses in wrestling where you kind of you go and stick the leg out to the outside.
he was trying to throw me.
You weren't. I thought you tried to hit that throw.
No, he was trying to throw me the whole match. That guy had a judo throw like in his arsenal.
Yeah, he was trying to do like a harai,
Yeah, he was trying to throw me the whole time, and
and you were shooting doubles.
I was shooting doubles the whole time.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
you shooting doubles.
and I got him super tired when we got to
Yeah, you threw
overtime.
him against a table or some shit.
He
right?
was done. Yeah, I wore him out, and then I ended up.
Were you talking shit to him?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no,
I thought you were talking shit to him as you were like getting the rear naked.
no, 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 no.
Oh, okay, okay.
No, I didn't know, not at all. He was a
Okay.
nice guy. He was tough to take down, man. Like when in the first 6 minutes, during regular time, he was really tough to take down. He was a big dude. He knew how to sprawl. He put me in a couple positions, before points started, and I was able to get out and keep
Yeah.
shooting, keep pressuring. I knew that I was going to get a takedown eventually. It was just a matter of time.
Right.
And then in overtime, I took advantage of his conditioning, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I went in for a good single leg takedown, and took him straight to his back, and then ended up mounting him. I think I threatened an Americana there just to like get him
Yeah.
to move, but he was actually really tired. And, I ended up going to S mount, I think, and then he just turned to his stomach,
turned
and
to
I
his
just
stomach.
wrapped my arm around his face and choked him, and he just tapped. Yeah,
Did you get the full choke in?
nah, dude. I think he quit.
I think so too. I
Yeah,
think you got him to quit. Like
yeah,
he was starting to get once you guys were in overtime, you could tell that he was really tired.
yeah. He definitely quit.
And you were burning him though.
It was barely a crank, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I as soon as I got my arm in front of his face, he just tapped.
yeah, you
He
were
was just
burning him
done.
though. That guy was
Yeah,
dude. And that's gotta be crazy. Those overtime matches, especially at that level.
yeah. That's when you really have to know how to wrestle.
Oh, that's a good point.
ADCC, that's you need to know how to wrestle
But I
because
like that rule set. I think that you gotta bring that wrestling into jiu-jitsu.
it's a great rule set. It's an interesting rule set. A lot like in my second match, for example, I went against a black belt from the Detroit Jiu-Jitsu Academy. He had a really good guard. He sat right away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this dude put some death grips on my wrist, and I could not get my wrist back. And I was trying to pass his guard, but I couldn't get my wrist back. I wasn't able to. I think he ended up taking my back, but he didn't score anything off of it because it was
No,
like before the points.
yeah.
So I was able to escape his back control, and then the whole time he was just riding me. I was trying to get up. The only reason I avoided getting scored on is because of the whole turtle thing in ADCC. Like in ADCC,
Yeah, you went to the turtle to avoid the points,
in
right?
ADCC, if you go to turtle, like you can't get scored on.
Yeah.
Like if I take you down and you go to turtle, I don't get 2 points. Like if I take you down, I have to hold you inside control for 3 full seconds. 3 seconds is a long time.
Yeah. It is.
You can create a big scramble in 3 seconds. So that guy probably should have scored on me, but because of the rule set, I just kept going to turtle, and
Yeah.
he wasn't able to score on me. And he actually wore me out. He kind of did to me what I did
Dude,
to the
because
first
that-
guy.
you had a rough match in the first one though.
Yeah,
That was a tough match.
yeah. So then in overtime, I just didn't have enough gas in the tank to like really go after a takedown.
Yeah.
I feel like I could have taken that guy down. Like had he not sat guard,
Right.
I feel like I would have taken him down. But he played it. He played a good match. He was really talented. He was really good.
You think he saw you wrestling? He's like, I'm gonna sit the fuck down on this one.
Maybe, yeah. I think he's just a guard player.
Oh, okay.
Because I saw him wrestle. Because that was the second day of trials. So
That was the next day.
yeah, that was the next day. So
okay.
I went home after the first day and I looked him up because I knew who I was going to go against. So I looked up his match and I saw his wrestling, and his wrestling was not good at all.
Okay,
Like
okay.
you could tell he's a guard player.
Okay.
So I was looking to expose that. I was like, man, I can really beat this guy, and I was really looking forward to beating him because I've always wanted to beat a black belt in competition. You know,
Right.
that's kind of like
Yeah.
like everybody wants to have that.
Yeah. Especially in competition when you're not a black belt.
Yeah.
When you're a brown
So
belt, it's like it's fucking
yeah.
legitimizes you, especially at ADC trials.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking forward to, and I had a game plan, and he kind of just threw my game plan out the window by just sitting guard. And when I had the opportunity to take him down in overtime, I was just too tired.
Yeah, man.
And all credit to him. He was good. He beat
How's
me.
your nerves for that? Like for ADCC,
How was the what?
your nerves. Do you get nervous?
So the last 2 competitions that I've done, although I hadn't really done many competitions in preparation for, oddly enough, I was not nervous.
Mm.
I was not nervous, and my conditioning was pretty good. Like I could definitely get better, but I don't think I lost because of conditioning. Like that last match in ADCC, I wasn't able to get a takedown because of my conditioning, but I don't think he beat me. Like he was gonna win. Like if there was no overtime, he would have beat me because he
Right.
took my back and stuff. But
Yeah.
um
Yeah, but he took your back when there was no points.
yeah, but he got the ref's decision because of those
That's true.
positions he put me in.
That's true.
He never scored on me. I never scored on him, but he put me in those positions, and he beat me fair and square. But I don't think it was a lack of conditioning. I think my condition could have been better, and I could have probably gotten a takedown.
Yeah.
But I think my conditioning was like pretty good, and my nerves were good. Like I wasn't that nervous.
Would you get more nervous when you would wrestle?
Yes,
Yeah.
in high school.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely was not a good, very good in competition in high school wrestling.
Okay.
I definitely got nervous.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking that maybe it's because of you've been competing so much in wrestling, and then maybe that those nerves come down because it's a familiar feeling.
I
Right?
think that my wrestling helped me
Yeah.
because after experiencing that, and then you get a little bit older and you're removed from the sport for a while,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I could have beat a lot of those guys in high school if I just wasn't that nervous, if I just let it fly. Like I
Right.
had a lot of technique that I just never let fly in competition because I was nervous of what the outcome could be. Like I was nervous that I was gonna like screw up the technique.
That makes sense, dude. That you don't want to kind of like look bad and
Yeah, like let me not shoot this double leg that I know I can hit in
Right.
practice, but in competition against this big dude might sprawl on me, and then I'm
Right.
I'm gonna get ridden out the whole match. So there was a lot of that for me in high school, and then when I went into jiu-jitsu, I definitely felt an advantage competitively
Yeah,
because
it's
I
gotta
had
be
those
huge.
experiences.
Yeah, it's gonna be a huge advantage.
But I feel like I could get even better if I compete more
Yeah,
often.
man. I think if you compete more, it just becomes like a normal. It just becomes normalized. That feelings of nervousness and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely like levels you need to scratch away. I feel like I'm way better at competing now than I was in high school,
Dude, but
but
it's crazy because you because you went from like usually you build up to the big competitions. Like you just went worlds, ADCC.
so
So you already had in your mind when you were a purple belt you were gonna go ADCC.
I was a purple belt for almost 4 years,
Oh, okay.
and I never competed.
Yeah.
So for 4 years, I did not compete, and then and then I competed at Worlds, and then right after that, I got promoted, and then my first competition was ADCC trials.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have to do a better job at staying more active to prepare for those big competitions. But having said that, I felt good in those competitions, those big competitions. I don't feel like I lost because of lack of experience. I feel like I lost just because the guys were able to impose their game upon me, and I
Yeah.
wasn't able to impose my game upon them.
Right.
And
And I
that's
mean,
it.
either way, it's an experience. You get to experience what that level of competition is.
Yeah.
So that's gonna you can go back to a drawing board knowing what's gonna be like. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna help a lot. You know what I mean? So you're probably you're looking into do trials. How you now with the CGI thing?
I love Craig Jones. Like I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
I don't really like that he's like
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
sticking it to the man with
Right.
ADCC. Like I just feel like he's diluting. Like his competition is not going to be the most competitive because half the guys are going to be in ADCC,
Yeah.
and then ADCC is not going to be the most competitive now because a lot of guys are dropping out and going to that.
That's exactly what's happening. That he's doing it on that. I
Yeah.
think that's doing it on the weekend. I like the competition aspect of him kind of creating this new event in which he's gonna actually pay the athletes, but doing it the same day, it's like you're diluting both, right?
Yeah, and only one guy is getting $1 million. Everyone else just getting 10 grand.
Isn't it? Isn't it two? I thought it was gonna. Oh, it's the absolute.
Yeah, it's like, but the champion, only the champion in each weight class. I think there's 2 weight classes. Will get $1 million, or I don't know if they're splitting the $1 million or each getting $1 million. But regardless, this is one dude. It's not like he's paying all the athletes now.
Right.
The athlete, if you do get a $10,000 and $1 or $10,001,
$1 is big,
yeah,
dude.
it's like, but it's 10 grand, dude. That's not gonna change anybody's life. And it's like, in my opinion, like if I wasn't if I had qualified for ADCC or had been invited, I would go to ADCC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be like, fuck the $1 million, I'm going over there.
Oh yeah, because it's either like a small chance of winning $1 million, but more than likely just winning 10 grand for showing up to like a no name competition, or going to ADCC, possibly becoming a champion, at worst being able to call yourself an ADCC veteran.
Yeah.
Like that's a very prestigious thing.
It's not about the money for you. For you, it's like it's more about the, I guess not the accolades, but you don't do it for the money. You do it for like kind of like, you're not in your mind. It's not about the money.
No,
it's about the prestige, about the accolades.
Yeah, it's all about the prestige. It's like the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like just going to the Olympics and being able to call yourself an Olympian and getting those rings tattooed on you. You know, like that's such an incredible like feat. Like you'll have that for the rest of your life. Those 10 grand will last you 2 months.
Yeah,
you know. So you know, ADCC is the Olympics of our sport. So if you compete at ADCC, you're an Olympian.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, you know, you're an ADCC vet. So, I, you know, but whatever. It's an opportunity for some people, and I'll watch it. You know.
Yeah, I want to watch it.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it.
So, how you feeling about this competition you have on Saturday? Feel good? You ready to go?
I feel good.
Did you come back for that competition, or you?
Yeah, I came for that competition. Yeah.
Oh, so you're ready.
Yeah, initially I asked Carmichael for a super fight against a brown or black belt my size, but he said he didn't have anything for me, but that he would add me to the open weight round robin.
So that's like, how many are there in the round robin?
It's 6 of us total, so it'll be 5 batches.
Right.
And there's some pretty tough dudes. I think I'm the biggest guy in the round robin. I think the dude from 10 Planet Miami is also a big dude, but I think I'm heavier. He's probably taller.
Yeah.
But like even the small guys are like killers. Like Steven is a killer. I don't really know this Anthony Vega guy, but I think he's pretty good too.
Yeah.
That other guy from Wagner, I think is pretty good. I mean, he was kind of like talking a little smack.
He's talking shit to you?
Not to me personally, but he like was saying that he was going to sub everyone.
Oh shit.
I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, but no, there's definitely some really good guys out there.
It's going to be good, dude.
Yeah, and initially before the replacements came in, they had Chase from Daniel Perez, and me and
Hmm.
Chase go way back. I competed against him. As a white belts, and we've trained together, numerous times. He's a great training
I
partner of
just
mine.
met him like a week ago.
Yeah,
Super nice
he's a
guy.
great dude, man.
Yeah.
So I was looking forward to tussling with him again, but I think he got dislocated his shoulder or something.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That sucks. Well, hopefully he recovers soon, man. So we're finishing up. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote? Anything like that?
Um, no, just like thank you so much for being
No,
for
thank you
having
for
me here,
coming,
man.
bro.
Like
I appreciate it.
I was super excited when Tommy hit you up and you said you were cool with me coming over here, because a lot of the guys that you've had on, I go way back with, and I've watched a lot of the episodes, and they're all super cool. So I'm happy to be
No,
able
man.
to.
Thank you for coming. When you come back, we can do it again, dude.
Yeah, of course.
Don't even worry about it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we'll do like a follow up. It's gonna be great.
yeah. It'll be great. Are you gonna be at the?
Yeah, my wife's actually competing that day. There's only two females competing, and she's one of the ones that's competing. And then I'll be there to like watch the matches.
All right. Well, hopefully I can put on a show for you then.
That'd be great, dude. That'd be great, man.
I'll
Thanks for
try
coming.
my best. Thank you, brother.